My name's Major David Tiki. I'm from Western Highlands. I've been in the PNG for over 41 years now. And started my rugby career back in Lae when my old man transferred from Port Moresby to Igam Barracks. Back then, Igam Territory School during the colonial era, where my coach then was late Leo Kende, who took us, the kids, in grade 3 to go and play against the kids from Unitec, whose parents were teaching at Unitec. We had a game at the Oval there. That was my first taste in rugby then. But after that, the old man got posted to Port Moresby back in 77. So upon joining him in Port Moresby, I did not take up rugby, but I actually went into swimming. So I commenced my swimming career at the Morobe Barracks swimming pool. Back then it was a defense amateur swimming club with the likes of the Mai family, Krewanti family, the Yavias, and some of the other Pini family, the Harkins family, our expatriate community. So I basically swam till 79 when I was in grade 6. We went on a tour. We were selected into the combined PNG schools, tour of the far north Queensland. That was in Cairns and Townsville. And then returning back to PNG. And I still swam till I got enlisted into the Army straight after high school. In 1983, grade 10 exams, we went straight into Goldie. And then from Goldie, I took most of my mates, I taught them how to swim, like the former Kumu captain, Nafin Kera. Most of them went to the Navy Corps, where they were lucky to learn swimming back then in Goldie. So after being posted to Morobe Barracks in 84, I was still swimming, never took up rugby. Till 85, we went over to Lae for the short course national titles, where we won the 4x100 meters freestyle relay. That's late Captain Alan Vele, Rowan Watt, the only Australian in there. Our Australian brother, Dixon Mom, and myself was the anchor of the relay team. So after coming back from Lae, I was deployed into projects. The engineers were deployed in Milne Bay in 85 to 87. So coming back from the project in 85, I tried swimming and I tore my muscle. So I couldn't take that swimming competition anymore. So I was just lazing in the barracks, and one of my one-talks, Mark Myers, who came back from the Hong Kong Sevens, and he probed and he made fun of me. We Western Islanders play rugby, not staying lying around and being idle, doing nothing. So I took that challenge on board and commenced my rugby career in 85, playing for the third grade and defense third grade and reserve grade. I basically took them because of my height in the lineouts. They used me to play in the reserve straight after third grade to reserve. So both teams made it into the grand final, but I opted to play for my third grade, which we won the grand final against Walia Club back in 85. And I took the award for the best forward. And fast forward, 86, from third grade, I was celebrated to play in the A grade. That was the time that I started playing real rugby. And rugby back then, unlike the rugby today where there's player welfare and player safety, it's being monitored by the referee. And I played against the likes of late Jack Takavis, Sawyer Williams, all these legendary Pukpuks, Lahore Tore. The club that I played for with defense were both of them were Pukpuks as well, so it was also good for us young up-and-coming rugby players to rub shoulders with. So we went all the way to win the 86 grand final. We were coached by late Brigadier General Ken Noga, who was our coach then. Rugby league was coached by Brigadier General Tony Hawaii, late General Hawaii. Soccer was by late Carol Plyer. And in that year, 86, those three codes, including Aussie Rules, went into the grand final and won all the awards. So rugby league, rugby union, soccer, and Aussie Rule. So that was the best year for defense sports within the Port Moresby community in sports. And then in 87, I was lucky to be selected into the Hong Kong Sevens team, the training squad, penciled in, coached by Wallaby great Glenn Ella. Unfortunately, on the 11th hour, I had a freak injury to my ankle, and I was ruled out of the team. It was really a painful experience for a young player coming through, only to be put off. Because I believe I had the fitness level back then, coming from the swimming background. So I was encouraged by Glenn Allen. I still have a chance in 88. So later in 15th, in 87, I was picked in the Port Moresby side to play against the Morobe team coming from Ley. And in the team was the Solomon Islands captain, the 1991 Solomon Islands captain, Frederick Sawaki, who played for the Unitec rugby team in Ley and was part of the Morobe Rugby. So we all got selected into the Pukpuks training squad to go to Numia Games. But along the way, during the preliminary final, there was a fist-off between fly and defense rugby team. And without having the benefit of the doubt, the judiciary decided to forfeit the game to fly. So fly went on to play against brothers in the grand final. That's when the club, defense rugby club, made a decision for all the players that were selected in the Pukpuks team to pull out. So the bulk of the national team was by a defense rugby union club in 87. So we pulled out. And that was a decision that I regret to this day, not to travel abroad to Numia, where I could have seen Numia in 87. And then in 88, I made it into the Pukpuks team. I made my debut with late Morea Kauna, who was a fast rising star. With Morea, David Pera, we were there. David took his uni books to Hong Kong. Whilst on our training breaks, he was doing his schoolworks. While after the games we were going out drinking, he committed himself to his studies. And that is where now David Pera is someone in the professional world now. But I did a tour in 88 and then followed in 89, was unlucky and got deployed to Bougainville. But there are other tours that I was part of, which is a long list. And the highlight of my career was with me being selected with my kid brother after Morobe Rugby, whom I took on board in 91 when I got transferred back to Ley. Or not transferred, but when the Air Transport Squadron with Engineer Battalion did the swap over. So we were the leading party that was going to go and renovate Igam Barracks. So prior to that, we Moresby side went over to Ley to play, and then we defeated Ley Morobe side, which had John Peel and them, rugby league playing rugby union, rugby league star. And then on our way back, on a vehicle where Mike Chaitas drove us to the airport, I told my peer mates that I was flying back on. We were returning on Sunday. The next day, Monday, I will be flying back to Ley for good. So I was challenged by my brothers, George Peter, what are you going to do? And I got up and I told them, I'm going to do something that will change the whole spectrum of rugby. Because Moresby was the dominant force back then. So having flown the next day to Ley, it took me from 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94 to get Morobe to where it was. With the help of Mike Ioane, my Samoan brother who's now in New Zealand, Dr. Sau, late Phil Hobbs, late Roger Somo, Tony Tau, all those senior players from Morobe. With our president, we call him the barefoot president, Joshua Lakora. So when we came over to play the sevens, Morobe just walked over. That was when we unplugged the talented late John Asimba and Ian Pilakos, both Bumayong High School sprinters, which most we did not know about. So when we unleashed them on the edges of the field, they were surprised to see both Ian was playing in the forwards, while John was playing in the wings. Both of them running away with tries. And that's where we won the inaugural Telecom Cup Sevens. We went back, we came back in the 15s. We defeated all the teams, we took the cup, we defeated Moresby in the grand final. That's when I gave a finger up to the Moresby side. A dream come true for me back then. But that was the two highlights that I had with my kid brother being selected into the Pukpuks for the 95 gold medal Arafura winning team. He played in the props and I played in the second row, locked in the scrum. So we ended up winning the gold medal coming back home. But unfortunately, he passed on to the other side. But many other trips that we went on, like the 92 Sri Lanka tour, which we clean swept, beat the Sri Lankan national team and the President's 15 national team in Kandy and Colombo. And also we were part of the first World Cup team to Cook Island, where we lost by 2 points. And on the home series, we defeated Tahiti with 95 to 5 points. And in that game, that was my first time to score out of my rugby career, a try. And that was the biggest margin that the Pukpuks have done. And then followed suit later by the next generation of Pukpuks coming on board to emulate that. And I think there's a lot of my history. I was also the captain of the sevens team and also the captain of the national team in 1991 South Pacific Games. Unfortunately, we lost to Solomon Islands, where Frederick Sawaki, coincidentally, his older brother is normally we would say one married in Topisin. He's married to my sister, my wife's older sister. And his other brother is the Solomon Islands High Commissioner here to PNG. So yeah, we lost to them, and then that saw us, despite we beating the other teams, but we couldn't make it into the final in 91 on home soil.
So just continue until you hang up your boots. Just continue with your.
Oh yeah, we played. We played after the game against Tahiti at the St. Hubert Murray Stadium. I continued on, still playing local rugby, but by then age was catching up. I still had the fitness in me, but to play against the younger kids, the game has changed. Unlike the old days where we had the hard yaka, when the player gets tackled to the ground, you have the boots coming onto your face when they rock you out of the play. If you're blocking the ball, you're bound to get a sprigs on your face, on your skin. Unlike today where player safety is there, and you will not see those type of rough play in there. That's something that I took out from rugby, watching the younger generation and reflecting back to the generation that I joined. I actually was lucky to get in when all these legendary Pukpuks were on their way out. Martin Biggeding, Hasey Howe, late Hasey Howe, they were all on their way out. So I was privy to be part of them. And then part of the next generation of Pukpuks coming on board, Peter Sennett, part of the Tide 5 that PNG has ever had was the Tide 5 from 1990. That's Peter Sennett, Jeffrey Puipui, Michael Sawage, Ian Leverus, my second row partner, Robin Tarre. Those Robin Tarre and them are the loose forwards, but the Tide 5, John Susue and them, those were the key forwards that you have in any rugby game. They make up the foundation of the scrum and the rucks. So we had our Tide 5 for almost 5 to 6 years until every one of us started to fade away. Only Ian Leverus continue to play on with the younger generation coming on. We also had, I also was a part of the Pukpuks team back in '92. The administration then was under William Sawyer, passed on to one of the Daru bloke, I forgot his name, who was then the president. There was a newspaper article about them banning us, the Renegades, in the 7th team. Was written by either Hugh Marlon or John Pakatan. I have a newspaper cutting where Bodhi Meapo, late More Kauna, and I sitting down after the game at Lloyd Robson Oval when we had the Queensland, former Queensland greats coming up to play against us to give us the warm-up games to go to Hong Kong. And the front page, the back page read, the future of these players are in doubt. But we had the great A team then, where Murray Watson was then the general manager with PNG Motors, Graham Dunnage with Professionals, and Graham Watt with PNG Motors. They were the backbone of the supporting rugby supporting team in PNG, who were known as the A team. They were the ones that were backing us all the way. Every time that we, on a Friday prior to departing for Hong Kong, there used to be a businessman luncheon held in the Travelodge, now the Crown Plaza. Crown. The Crown in downtown. That's where the business houses and all the dignitaries coming together to pledge their support, give us the funding, and the players are, paid a allowance back in Hong Kong by the team manager. Not much, but that is to keep us going. Unlike the young generation coming through. We were privileged to have those. Unfortunately, the A team evolved, and then I believe the Kabine team came in, Kabine. But I'm not too sure where they are now. But for us, the Morobe Rugby, we were lucky to have Mr. Mike Quinn in Lay. Him being the backbone, him and Graham, he passed on. He was with Kemke Pharmacy. And they were the ones that, with Noel Screen, Chris Black, they formed the SCRUM, that's Supporters Club Rugby Union in Morobe Incorporation. That's where SCRUM was formed back in '94. They wanted to come in and support us, but along the way they decided to go invest into the schools program, which Papua New Guinea now is struggling to get it off the ground. Morobe Rugby is privileged to have that nursery, which the hunters have benefited. Rugby League has benefited from the children coming out from that program. And that is something that all the sporting codes need to harness, where we can start from the kindergarten, from the kindy and coming up. We teach them the basics, teach them the right way, the laws, player safety, player welfare, and all the rules that they can learn. So when they grow up to be future stars, they're already ready to play in the top tier championship.
How would you describe the evolution of rugby union in Papua New Guinea over the last 50 years?
Over the last 50 years, that was alluded by Mai Tasik, our former rugby president, William Sawyer. Funding was an issue back then, where I alluded about the A team being the funders of rugby. We never had the luxury of the money, but over the years we were lucky to have Telecom coming on board because Bill Burgess was working there, and Luke Supro was then the president of rugby, vice president, and later to be the president, were employees of Telecom, who backed us the '94 7th team to Hong Kong. And that was where the funding was, but along the way, rugby picked up, money came in, but I would not dwell into the politics of rugby. Because with the status quo now, it needs both sides of the house to actually come together and come to an amicable solution. Whether they still want the current regime to be there, they need to do it on the floor in a democratic way, as opposed to attacking each other on Facebook and whatever, or in the media. We're not helping rugby, we're defeating rugby. And the rugby league is stepping into the talent that we produced. But the laws of the game has changed. Unlike before, when we run with the ball, you need to build faces. And that is where you go in hard. In today's game, it's all about kicking into spaces. And for players, bigger players like me, we're more or less standing in between, watching the aerial rugby being played, the fly-off kicking to the other side, and the receiving end, receiving it kicking. So yeah, rugby has changed.
What were some of the most memorable moments for you as a player and leader of the PNG Pukpuks?
The memorable occasion would be having the privilege to captain Pukpuks on our home soil in 1991. As a young toddler, I went with my old man to watch the opening of the games down at Seyubet Mari Stadium. And that was in '69, and in 1991, after so many years, I had the privilege to captain the team on home soil, but unlucky to go out on a winning note. I also had the privilege I did not retire, but I had the privilege to be part of the first PNG team to go down to Australia for the Pacific Armies Cup as an assistant coach and a player as well. Went down to Canberra to play and then got back. That was the last time that I played. And looking back from that, the career that I started off in '85 to 2006, that's a long way, long journey. Yeah, but the highlight of the tour, the rugby, was being the captain and having the privilege to represent PNG on many occasions, to Cook Island, to Fiji for the Sevens, seeing places that I have only read and seen on magazine and TV, to go and, and also we were maybe the only team to ride in a limousine in Gold Coast during the Queensland tour. I'm not too sure whether other Papua New Guinea teams have rode in the limousine down in Queensland. I'm not too sure. But yeah, those were the moments that I will cherish. Unfortunately, my kids followed up when they were in high school playing rugby. But now, not even the three of them are taking up rugby. So I'm looking at my grandson, who's an avid rugby follower, hopefully to take my place.
Who are some of the key figures you believe have contributed significantly to the growth of rugby union in PNG?
The key figures, I would say the A team. Yes, Alf Yaya, the Fijian back in the 70s, was then there with Arnold Ahmed. Late Jack Towis, I will give him all the accolades. He was the one that started the gospel of rugby in all the provinces in Papua New Guinea. Back then it was only Moresby. Moresby used to play. During the colonial era, we had rugby going on, but along the way it died. And then in the 80s, it was only Moresby that was playing rugby. And then Jack decided to do something that we are now grateful of, by taking the gospel to lay, conducting clinics in Manus, in the Highlands, and then Ben Sumunjon, a police inspector, who took it on board himself to start the Royals Commissioners' Cup. Well, the police teams in all the provincial centers came in. And mind you, Royals is also a hard team to beat in the Moresby competition back then. So when Ben was posted to Wewak, he formed the Wewak Rugby Association in Wewak. So these are some of the people that had stood on in keeping rugby afloat. I would also give credit to my brother, Robin Tarre, who tirelessly continued to churn out the young future rugby players, both female and male rugby players, where now the talents are being captured, as I alluded earlier on, by Rugby League.
What challenges have you seen the sport face in Papua New Guinea over the years?
The challenge that we face is we did not follow on from what our rugby administrators and the backers had back then. Where we had Paul Joseph, I'm Peter Coast, James Pomat, going over to New Zealand to play club rugby. After the Queensland tour, we had Bodie Mbiapo and late Morea Kauna playing in Brisbane. And then we also were not marketing our players enough, meaning we target an individual player on that day and we highlight him. So we can trade on the internet that we can also market the players, which we are not doing. It's only through our kids that are lucky to be overseas with their parents or studying abroad, being exposed to rugby and being able to make their name. They're carrying our PNG blood, but representing Australia, like Will Genia, like the young Toa, Aiden Toa, and other rugby players that are playing, even my own nephew, forget his name, is playing for the Queensland and also made debut with the Wallaby, one of the Lee. That's my nephew, from my mom's elder sister's son.
How did the structure of rugby union change over the decades to accommodate more talent at the grassroots and national levels?
The rugby changed, as I mentioned earlier on, through what Jack in his vision decided to do as the national coaching director. And I'm thankful that SCRUM came on board, taking on board the schools starting from the nursery. Port Moresby Rugby had that back in '88. That was when Morea Kauna broke into the limelight. It was part of the Gero High School. That defense club, we had players going out to, coach them. All the clubs in Moresby had feeder schools to, interact with. But it didn't go that long or that far. So the structure of rugby in terms of, in the last couple of years, has changed. Where we had CEO portion in the likes of Richard Sapiers, and then Peter Chamalili Jr., and then now Paul Seaby. Well, we have a structure in place there. But having said that, we actually need to sort out the politics of rugby in order to get rugby to, rebound back again for the good of our kids.
From your perspective, how has the support from the government and private sector towards rugby union evolved over the years?
Over the years, with the government coming on board and getting Common Petroleum to give the 10 million, that was a blessing in disguise. The first time that Papua New Guinea Rugby has received a big tranche of money. To the club rugby, I have seen in Moresby, companies coming on board. In Ley, SCRUM made a decision, like in the past we were struggling. They made a decision where all the companies took up ownership of each rugby club. So in the Morobe competition, you can see each club being attired. Like Camp Care, Angus King has sponsored defense. Harlequins, sponsored by the family that owns the lodge up 11 Mile. That family, and also Pirates, where Corey Chan has gone behind them, Iraq Pirates. Business also need good advertising border. If you have sound management, prudent management, they will come on board. Otherwise, if you don't have that, they will not come on board. They will not be gullible to come and spend money where the investment is not seen. They also need to see players being good ambassadors and being brand ambassadors of those companies.
What impact has rugby union had on communities across Papua New Guinea?
In communities across Papua New Guinea, they've actually changed a lot of youths, who took up rugby as a pathway. One club that will stand out in my rugby career is that's the old Papuan Compound. They were then the current Harlequins. People tagged them as rascals, but these were the talents. Back then when we used to play rugby, then when it comes to the team from Papuan Compound playing against Royals, and when Royals lose to them, what the Royals team does is they run and chase the players, because some of the boys were, they used to be involved in those bad things before. Even at one stage when we were playing against, defense was playing against the Papuan Compound team. And all of a sudden, here comes the task force, Peter Guinness and them. The players decided to take the jerseys off and run. And here we are standing and looking, and what's going on? And here I am saying, I spoke to Roger Sommer. What's going on? Late Roger Sommer. What's going on? No, these are rascals. No. You cannot tag them as rascals. Rugby is trying to change the mindset. So being part of the executive of Morobe Rugby, we went and sat in a round table and we raised the issue. In order to change the mindset of these young kids, take them into rugby. And mind you, they'll change overnight. And now you can see Harlequins is the leading rugby club in PNG. Harlequins rugby team in Papuan Compound, they've literally changed. And they speak, eat and sleep rugby in Papuan Compound now. That's something that I saw in my rugby career.
Can you share any particular achievements or milestones of the PNG Pukpuks that you are most proud of?
Oh, the milestones. The team that I'm proud of is where my team, the era that we played, we after the 91 we had to swallow our pride, and then through Jack Takavis and Bill Burgess, we went out on the Sri Lankan tour '92 in our endeavor to be part of the Asian rugby. So when we went on the tour, we clean swept the tour, and then 5 of us were signed on as contract players. That's late Joe Pera, late More Kauna, Pipi Boy, Robin Tarre and myself. And we signed our contract in Colombo. And then only to be told on the next day that, because Joe was married there, because on tour Joe got engaged and got married. So I was the main celebrant as his tribesman when his uncle David Pera and him came to my room. And I went and spoke to Bill Burgess and the team manager. His eyeglass fell off his nose. What? Well, here we are. And that's something that transpired on tour. And late Joel stayed back. And Gideon Raka went and joined him. And unfortunately, he was killed. We also, the other team that the team I was previously played with, was the 93 Arafura Games. We lost in the silver, but we bounced back and won the gold in 95. The core of the team were together till the second part of the first World Cup qualifier and the second World Cup qualifier. After that, we all went down on our different ways.
How has rugby union contributed to national pride and unity in Papua New Guinea?
Rugby has contributed when late Dagi and the team went and did us proud. Even our boys, when they won the plate, I think, played a bowl. After my team lost to Tonga in the bowl in 95, and the team after us went and played in the plate where Robin was the coach. Played the bowl. I stand to be corrected on that. With Dougie guys, he brought rugby sevens back, when the underrated team that he took on, the young development squad he took on and molded them to be a playing force. That's when they brought us into the IRB circles.
What lessons do you believe rugby union can take from its history as it looks towards the future?
The lessons that rugby can take is, let's humble ourselves, especially the executives, for the unions, from the unions, and come to a round table with the national executive, get the issues sorted out, come to an understanding, and then let's get rugby back up and running. Yes, we are having local competitions going on, but we need to have pathways. If we cannot have pathways, we need to look at going on tours to, like what we did in Morobe Rugby did, to go to Singapore Sevens. And then later on, PNG Pukpuks took it on board as part of the itinerary. Initially, the PNG Pukpuks, back then, 92, we were PNG Pukpuks, but we played under Mazda team in 92 to Darwin and Singapore. And yeah, we actually need to, the head need to come together, come to an amicable solution, get everything out of the way, and let's put rugby first and our pride below, and then we can see the light at the end of the tunnel for the young generation of players, both male and female, Pukpuks and the Kasawaris, I think. Kasawaris or Ragianas, the ladies.
Okay, we come to the last questions now. What is your vision for the future of rugby union in Papua New Guinea?
The future of rugby, it's still healthy. It's healthy. I mean, rugby has been played in, especially in the organization I'm with, PNGDF. The history of rugby goes back a long way. In all the armed forces around the globe, rugby is their number one sport. And I'm just hoping that the young generation of soldiers would come out with the units based in Manus, Wewak, Ley, Port Moresby, to come and be part of the rugby family, to bring that, the power that we used to have before. Because all the other teams used to train twice as much to beat defense back then. And going forward, it'll be good for us to create a nursery for rugby. Back in the old days, education department had space for sports curriculum. We had athletics, we had volleyball, we had soccer, Everyone were part of the nursery growing up until the 80s or mid-80s, we lost sight of it. And, for us to grow the sport again, we'll need that. And basically to tap into the nursery, starting from the junior level, and with the current generation of players, get them to train together and find an avenue for them to go and play outside of the country. Or bring a visiting team like Soed Williams, when he was the Barbarians, he's the founder of Barbarians Rugby, where he brought the international teams into PNG, Port Moresby, let alone Port Moresby, to play. And that was something that Soed Williams had a vision for rugby, being a parochial rugby supporter. And he brought that in. He named me in his 15th team, but I declined because I was flying back today. I was in Goldie attending course, and he asked me to play, and I said no, I'm being flown out of Moresby. So yeah, if we have a sort of like-minded people out there, bring in Barbarians Rugby, that is one way of us creating it. Or bring in a sevens, invitational sevens tournament here. We have not reached out to Renwick Club. Back then, Bob Dwyer, the Ella brothers, who are part of that Renwick Club, they were part of our rugby culture in PNG. And also the Queensland Rugby. they were part of a growth of rugby. We need to tap in into those two clubs, in the New South Wales and also Queensland, including the club in New Zealand where Pharaoh Tamata, former Pukpuks coach, did a pathway for Iron Pilacos and them to go down. We need to revisit those.
Finally, what is your message to the next generation of rugby players and administrators as PNG Rugby Union looks forward to the next 50 years?
My message to the young kids out there playing club rugby, do not give up hope. Continue to play rugby. Train. Heed advice from your coaches. The advice that you get from the senior players, heed them. Do not follow bad habits by chewing bit or not going to, booze or all these bad habits. They're not good for your growth. Back then, my era, we had giants. In the young generation today, I have not seen any giants rugby players. For the administration, I encourage you all to put your differences aside. Please, for the good of rugby, come together, sit down in a round table, and let's find a solution to the problem. Let's solve the issue and get rugby up and running.
Anything else you want to say?
To all my mates that I have played alongside, I have played against, and those, especially you, Malum and Patrick, the media fraternity, you were part of my growth in rugby. You profiled me in my career when I started playing rugby. All my weekend games were there, reporting. And you're party to the development of the sporting codes and the growth of the code, either rugby, soccer, any sporting code. The media is there to, profile the code to grow. And I implore and I ask the business houses outside there in the industries. I know times are hard, but give support to all the sports. Do not put money in one basket. Let's spread the money out to other sports that are struggling. For instance, I am now taking up lawn bowls as the president of a Defence Bowling Club. Lawn bowls is one of the code that is struggling to seek support from the business world to come in as corporate sponsors. Come in a blanket, a huge way to support the national body. So, the code brought in gold medal by Gewatau. I'm sorry, I'm going off the track, but as a former sporting star now taking up lawn bowling, we need the support from all the private entities out there, even the government, to put in the money where it is. If we want to get youths off the street, let's put in the money where it is, provided prudent management will always prevail.